Since December of 2015, I have been selling on Amazon, and throughout these years, I have consistently used one particular software that has not only made me a bunch of money and allowed me to find the best products with my Amazon arbitrage business, but it has also allowed me to avoid losing a lot of money and making bad mistakes. And so this tool is the #1 tool that you need to know as an Amazon seller. Whether you're doing arbitrage, where you're buying products low from a retail or online store and you're selling them on Amazon, or if you're doing wholesale and you're buying them from a distributor or from the brand directly, or even if you're doing private label, Keepa can help you to make the best buying decisions based off the information that it provides. And so in this video, I'm going to give you a full tutorial of what is Keepa, how do you set it up, how do you use it, and how do you see success within your Amazon business as you get good with reading these Keepa graphs. Now, I'm not going to go into everything detailing Keepa. That would take a long time, and I've done dozens of videos on Keepa for that, but this is an overview and a tutorial for newer sellers that don't know anything about Keepa, or maybe just know a little bit and they're trying to hone the skills. Also, if you're an advanced seller, there may be some things in here that are a little bit more redundant for you, but ultimately allows you to see some new ways of doing things, maybe some good reminders of things that you can do in your business to help you grow and scale and find profitable, consistent products that you can buy and sell, whether it's arbitrage, wholesale, or even private label. So what is Keepa? Now, Keepa is simply a software program that has been around for a long time. Now, the software actually used to be free whenever I started, but now it costs anywhere from $20 to $25 per month, and it actually depends on the exchange rate and where you're located. So if you are purchasing this at the time of this recording, it could be anywhere from $20 to $25 per month, or if you're watching this in the future, it may be a little bit more expensive. It all depends on the timing of it and the exchange rate. But Keepa allows us to see the historical data on a product. And I'm going to go through a bunch of examples here in just a minute. Now, this historical data is extremely important because first we can see the sales rank graph, and that information allows us to see how often this product is selling. Now, it's not an exact measurement of sales, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but it does give us an indicator of, is this product selling consistently? Because we're seeing the movements in Amazon sales rank over time. The second thing that it allows us to see is the historical pricing, and specifically the historical buy box pricing of what Amazon is showing to customers. Now, some of this information can allow us to know if the product is profitable, if it ever dips below a profitable level, and really what we can expect to hopefully sell it at in the future. And then the third main thing that we learn from Keepa is the historical competition. And we're going to go through that example as well of what does the competition look like historically. Maybe during different seasons, the competition skyrockets, or maybe it's been at a steady level for a long time, and we can feel some confidence that if we were to list on this product, that we would be able to sell out of the product without too much competition. And then actually there's a fourth thing that Keepa recently added. I made a whole video on it, which is seeing some monthly sales information that's given to us by Amazon, and Keepa is tracking that information. So we're going to go through some examples of that as well, so we can see what Amazon is telling us is actually selling on a monthly basis for particular products. Now, some of these products don't have that information, others do, and so we're going to show you what that looks like in this video. Okay, now before I actually get into these examples, I want you to know that I actually have a free Keepa training guide. It's over 16 pages now at this point. You can get it by going to askjimmysmith.com/Keepa guide. That link is below and in the description. And whenever you do that, you're actually going to see a bunch of information for how to set up Keepa, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff in this video, but it'll allow you to see it in a written format, as well as with a bunch of different examples of what I would or would not purchase depending on the different types of products. So it is a very helpful guide. I've used it to train employees and thousands of other students, and so I recommend checking it out at askjimmysmith.com/Keepa guide. Now, taking a look at this example, we can see, now this is just for a generic product. This is not a product that you should necessarily go out and buy or anything. I just wanted to show some examples here. So all the examples aren't actually products that you should go buy necessarily unless you had them at a profitable price. These are just examples for how do you read these Keepa charts. Now, for a lot of people, this may be very overwhelming. This is what Keepa as a Chrome extension on your Google Chrome browser looks like. Now, we're going to be just discussing these graphs in this video. I've got separate videos on the Keepa Data Product Finder and using that tool, so be on the lookout for those after this video. But there are a few things that you need to make sure that you have turned on your Keepa graphs. We've got all of these options over here, and so if I were to click that, it goes away, right? I can make all of these different lines disappear if I don't want to see them. So we need to know, what do we want to have shown on our Keepa graphs to allow us to have the best amount of information possible to be successful in reading Keepa charts. So I do recommend, and I actually go through this in the Keepa guide of what you need to have turned on, but I do recommend having the sales rank turned on, having the buy box turned on. I also recommend having these new third-party FBA turned on. If you're going to ever do fulfilled by merchant, where you're actually selling the products and shipping them to the customers yourself, you can click new third-party FBM and have those populate as well. Now, if you ever see Amazon as an option on here, I would recommend turning on the Amazon option, because it will show you whenever Amazon is selling a product and what the pricing was when Amazon was on the listing. So that's a very important other one that I would also have. Additionally, down here, I actually typically turn these green ones off because they're actually very similar. If we were to look at this, they're very similar graphs to the above graph here with this sales rank graph, so I don't need to see this redundant information. To actually turn these off, but I do currently leave the monthly sold on. This is a new feature that Keepa just released. It's actually tracking information since August of 2023 when Amazon came out with these monthly sold amounts, and Keepa is tracking this for us. Now, additionally, I also have new offer count on. You can at times, if you want to see the review count, do that. This gives us another indicator of if a product is selling or not. But I don't recommend having the rating, because I don't care about the historical rating of a product. But sometimes review count I will turn on, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to leave that off, because new offer count is really the most important out of these three options down here. Now, additionally, whenever you are evaluating Keepa graphs, you've got an option down here of what's the range that you want to see of history. Now, if you just want to see one day, you can click on day and it'll show us that. You can also see the week, the month, the 3 months is what it typically will default to. And then what I recommend is the year chart, because we want to see what it has looked like on the past year. This allows us to see seasonal information. It allows us to see if there were a huge dip in the price where maybe we'd run that risk of not being profitable on it if it dipped back to that price point. And so this is important to look at the last year, if at all possible. Sometimes it won't have that much information, or sometimes, like in this case, it will have all 1,677 days. This can be helpful for seasonal products if you want to see how it's sold in every Q4, for instance, every Christmas season. But for the most part, I am typically looking at the last year, unless it's a much more seasonal item where I want to see what it's done in past seasons, whether it's the summer, it's Christmas, it's Thanksgiving, etc. That's where you're looking at the all history would be helpful if it's available. Now, you also have information down here such as statistics, and you can compare international prices. You can share the graph. You can also click on less historical data, and whenever you do that, last bottom graph goes away. So if you're not seeing the seller count or the competition, click on more historical data, and this bottom graph will populate. Also, if you're not seeing this middle graph right here, these would be controlled by this sub rank section. So you can click that, that will go away, and you can just click that again to have that show up for you. So we want to make sure that we're seeing all three of these boxes at this point, because it gives us all the information that we need to make the best purchasing decisions possible. All right, now the three main things you're going to be looking at is going to be, one, the sales rank, so this green line going up and down. The second thing would be the buy box price, and if there is no buy box, then looking at the third-party FBA price. Those two things will give us some pricing indicators of whether or not this is going to sell profitably for us now and into the future. And then the third thing that you're looking at is this new offer count. This is the competition that we can expect, or that we can see for the history of this listing. We can see all of that information and kind of what that trend is. So as I'm looking at a Keepa graph, I want to see first, is it selling well? And if you see these green lines for the sales rank going up and down consistently, that indicates that it's selling well. That indicates that it's having multiple sales happen. Now, each drop in this sales rank line does not mean one sale. It could mean 5 sales, 10 sales. It could mean just about anything. But it does mean at least one sale happened. In the majority of instances, we'll see a drop, and that means at least a sale happened. It could, again, be 5 or 10. There could be multiple drops that happen at once. There's a lot of different factors. But seeing this go up and down consistently means that it's selling consistently. And that's important because we know that if we're sending in a product, we want to make sure that it's actually a product that's selling on Amazon. So we know that that checks out. This is something that's good. It's going up and down. The next thing that we want to see is the pricing. Now, typically, I recommend taking a look at where does the price land throughout this year. And it seems to land for this particular product, if I zoom in on this, at $14.44 here. It goes up to $15.99, I think I saw, 96, $14.25, $15.95. So it seems to be anywhere from $14 to $16. Right now, it's all the way up to $20. But if I were to be buying this product, I wouldn't be evaluating it based on $19.99. I would want to evaluate this product based on around $15 to $16 because most likely it's going to drop back down to that price point. And that's a huge difference, right? Having a $20 product, if I look at this and this costs, let's just say $6.99, having a $20 product makes me $4.81 or 69% return on investment. That's great. But if it drops down to that $15 price point, I'm making 23% return on investment or $1.62. It's a huge difference in profitability, especially if we were to have looked at it and saw that it was typically at 10 and we were losing money. Then Keepa allows us to see this data and this information, so we know if we can have a good likelihood of making profit if it were to drop back down to here. So that's huge. Now for me, particularly in my business, I may consider purchasing this and trying to sell it at $20 because I know if it drops back down to 15, I'm making more than what I spent on the product. I'm gonna break even or make a little bit of money. That's a good indicator. So for me, as I'm reading these charts, if I see that it's selling consistently and I'm looking at this pricing of a listing, I want to see in the last year, if it dropped to its lowest consistent point, which seems to be here, $14.25, if it dropped down to $14.25 for 5 months, right? Then can I make money or break even and get my money back? Because that's a really good opportunity to make sure that you're getting your money out of this product. So if it was $14.25 and it cost me $6.99, I'm making $1, I'm pretty much going to break even after prep expenses and sending it in. That at least tells me, hey, I'm not going to lose money in this instance. So I have a good opportunity to buy this, send it in, and sell it profitably. So that's just as an example, by the way. Now then the third thing we want to check out is this competition, this new offer count down here at the bottom. We want to see that sellers are going up and then going down and then going up and down because this is indicating that the amount of sellers on a listing is not enough for the demand of the product. That we're seeing sellers come on, the demand is still high, and so people buy the products and sellers fall off, and then they come back in, they restock, and then they sell out again. And so that is a good indicator. Now, an issue that you want to watch out for, let's say this was a whole year and we're looking at a year and we're seeing sellers go straight up and to the right. That is a big problem because this indicates that there's not enough demand for the supply. There's too much inventory and sellers aren't selling out of their inventory. So that would be a problem if this was an entire year or a 3-month period. Since this is just a week or so, that's not a big deal. That's why we want to look at the full year and see what it's doing. And currently it had stayed fairly steady and flat, and then they started to sell out, which is why the price is going up. So that's another thing that you may see is that as you see sellers fall off of a listing, you may see the price go up just as it did here. It's gone up to $20 now that there's one seller, whereas before when there was a bunch of different sellers going up and down, it stayed fairly flat and steady. So that's a good indicator. However, if you were to see the opposite, where the sellers were going straight up and to the right, you're probably going to see a product fall in pricing. So if I re-highlight this data point, you can see it was actually at around 17. It went up to 1865 at this point, 1881 there actually. 1881 whenever there was 5 sellers on the listing at that 1881 price. But then as the sellers got up to this point, the price dropped back down to $15. And so that is just showing that as the sellers go up, the price goes down. As the sellers are going down, a lot of times the price will go up. And so these indicators help us to make the best purchasing decisions possible. In this particular case, I would be okay buying this product, sending it in if it was profitable at this $14.25 price point. And so there's plenty of videos I've done evaluating Keepa graphs that may help you make the best decisions there as well. Additionally, there are some other things within a Keepa graph that I cover in the Keepa training guide, such as the statistics piece and how to take a look at that, the drops, how to read variations, how to look at some of the data, as well as being able to track products here. But for the purposes of this video, I just want to go through the main things that you're looking at. The last thing on a Keepa graph here that is newer to Keepa's software suite is tracking the monthly sold amount. Now this is actually coming from Amazon directly. It's the historical data for the bought in the past month metric as shown on Amazon's search engine's results page. This is just saying, hey, if it's over 50, 50 plus, Amazon's showing that. If it's 100 plus, Amazon is showing that. There's different ranges. I've done a full video on what this actually means and how you can use it. But this is very helpful because in different seasons, you may see a lot of things sell and then it falls off because it's no longer popular in that season. And I have an example for you in just a minute to show what that means. All right, now in this next example, I just want to show this to you. This is a different product. This is Oreos, very popular product, obviously. We can see that the sales rank chart, that's the first thing we're looking at, this green line. The sales rank chart's going up and down a lot. So we know it's selling, that's fine, it checks out. The next thing is the price. This seems to be very steady. So we're seeing about $10 and then back here is around $10. So it seems to sell around that $9.99 price point. Sometimes it goes up to $12, but it sells around this $9.99 price point. So if that's a profitable price for you, then it may be something that you can sell. And then additionally down here in the competition, we're seeing a bunch of sellers falling off, but staying fairly steady. So that is a good product for us to potentially test as long as it's profitable. And that's a completely separate video. And then lastly, this monthly sold, you can actually see back whenever they started, Keepa started tracking this in August, there was about a 50 per month monthly sold. And then Amazon said, hey, now it's up to about 100. And then around December, around the Christmas season, we're seeing 200 sold per month, anywhere from 200 to 500. Because that's the next band typically, but then it dropped down to 100 again, and then it went back up to 200 for a little bit here in February, and then it's dropped back down to this 100. Either way, this is selling a lot, and so that's just an extra indicator to show that it is actually selling. Now, if it's ever selling less than 50, as in this last example where we are no longer selling 50 per month, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy it. That just means that it's selling less than 50 times per month. But we can see that it sells very consistently still. So it's still an option to purchase depending on your metrics there. It's just an extra indicator of knowing, is this selling well? How well is this selling? And let's see what the competition is doing in relation to that. And then the last example is actually a seasonal product. This is holiday time. These are lights from Walmart. Actually, this is their private label brand. And we can see, if we look at this, the sales rank is going up and down consistently. Over the holiday season, November, December, January, the sales rank really ramps up and we're seeing a lot better sales. Obviously, we've got a 1200 sales rank at one point. It's really selling a lot. So this is indicating, hey, this sells a lot, but definitely over the fourth quarter here of the year, November or October, November, December, and then into January, we see a lot of sales happen for these Christmas lights. And so what we want to look at is, all right, it's selling well, so sales rank checks out. The second thing is the buy box price. What does the price do? Naturally, as there's more sales and we see more sellers and competition come on, we also then see the price drop from about $29 down to this $20 price point whenever we're at the peak of the amount of sellers here. So we're seeing that as the amount of sellers increase, the price drops, and that is just a very good indicator of what we should expect during that selling season. But now that we're out of the fourth quarter, we can see a bunch of sellers have fallen off, and so the price is starting to increase, and we're also seeing a slower amount of sales, but it's still selling fairly well. So this is where Keepa can be very helpful and valuable. As we get into the fourth quarter next year, we should probably expect the price to fall off as it did this year. Additionally, we can see with this monthly sold amount that it wasn't tracking here, so it's probably selling less than 50 times per month around October, September, but then it hit that 100 per month sold, and then 200, 300, 400, 500, 1,000, and at its peak in December, we're seeing 3,000 sold per month. And so we know that this is really selling a lot in the seasonal time period, and then it really starts to tank pretty quickly a few weeks after, and it drops down to about 500, and then it goes down to 400, 200, 100, and it's kind of stayed at that 100 per month sold over the last couple months. So this just gives us a good indicator of, is this selling well? And then lastly, because of this competition, we can see as more competition comes on, this is just key that as it does come on, you can see the price just go down while the amount of sellers is going up. And so it's just a very important metric. We can also look at the entire history of this, and we can see each year during Q4, what happens? A bunch of sellers come on, the the price tanks. A bunch of sellers come on, the price tanks. A bunch of sellers come on, the price tanks. And we just see that pattern every year. So that's where seeing the entire history of a seasonal product is also very helpful. Now, like I said, there's a lot more that goes into Keepa, but I wanted this video to be on how do you read these Keepa graphs? What's the tutorial here? How do we use this monthly sold amount now as we are getting into this new feature of Keepa? If you're looking to track products or you want to do some of the more advanced things, I've made plenty of videos on this channel about that. Also, if you want a full guide, that's 16 pages of information for how do you read these Keepa graphs, and I recommend going to askjimmysmith.com/Keepa guide, and that will give you all the information for how to set up your Keepa graphs, how to read them, a bunch of examples for you to go through, and really just how you can use it, not just to train yourself, but also train your future employees or anybody else that you're trying to help out with Amazon. It's a very good resource that I've used for thousands of different people at this point, and I hope that it helps you and blesses you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll be sure to read and respond to as many as I possibly can, and I hope this video helps you and blesses you, and that you have a great rest of your day and a blessed rest of your week.